In this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of May 12th, and it looks like your boy Swaggle played a role in getting one of these books on the list. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of May 12th. Now, for those who don't know, Go Collect puts out a weekly article that analyzes the hottest selling comic books based on movement and eBay sales data. So it's Monday, we got to take a look at the list together, and yeah, it's going to be a fun one. But before I get into the books for today, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, and I would appreciate it. All right, with that said, let us get into the books for today. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is one book on this list that definitely makes me smile. I think you guys will know which one, but I feel like, I played a role in getting this book on this list here today. So I'm going to be very, very excited to talk about it. It's like I do in all my videos. I feel like now I'm just always talking about this book because now I own it. All right. So that said, let us get into the list for today. And of course, this article is always written by Matt Tuck, great contributor to Go Collect. I will put a link in the description if you want to do further reading and check out his analysis, but I'm going to give you mine here today. All right. So like I do every week, hottest comics 512, I start here at the bottom. And this one is a really, really cool list this week. A lot of awesome books. And this one is no exception right here at the number 5 spot. We have Tomb of Dracula, number 10, up 958 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is actually the first appearance of the character known as Blade. And this one is very, very, very exciting because we know that we have a Blade show coming to the MCU. Blade, of course, is going to be played by Mahershala Ali. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, but of course, he famously played roles in Alita Battle Angel, Moonlight, and Green Book. And of course, he is now going to play the very, very famous character known as Blade. Well, book number 10 here in Tomb of Dracula, this would be Blade's first appearance. And this is one of those great Bronze Age books that, I feel like for a long time was definitely a sleeper. I mean, Blade was always a popular character when we got him with, of course, the Wesley Snipes rendition of Blade. Definitely one of the great underrated comic book movies and way ahead of its time, right? Like that movie was so transformative to the comic book genre, but people don't give it the credit that it deserves as a comic book movie, as a superhero movie. And for that reason, like I think it's really kind of disappointing that this book has never been respected in the way that it should be because those Wesley Snipes movies were so incredible. But now that we have a new version of Blade coming to the MCU, now that the MCU is what it is, this Tomb of Dracula first appearance of Blade has absolutely been exploding on the market. And for that reason, it's obviously showing up on hot lists like this Go Collect one. And one thing that is really interesting about this book overall, though, is that, we don't actually have the date for the show yet. So why this particular book is trending in this particular week, who really knows why that is? I mean, it could just be, the cultural zeitgeist, just everyone feeling like now's the time to jump on the book. But we all know that Blade is coming. And for that reason, this is always going to be one of those hot ones. And as we dig into the numbers here, you will see that there are a lot of sales in these recent months. Now, FMV for a 9.8, hovering around that $20,000 mark. But you can see here, there's a lot of sales. May, right? Lots of sales over here all. And then at the low end here, this is one of those books that even if you don't find it like in a slab grade, it's still going to run you like minimum, high 3-figure range. Everybody knows about this book. Everybody's hunting this one. And for good reason, because if the market is any indication of, or if there's trends to be seen in the market, we all know that when Blade eventually makes his way into the MCU on Disney Plus, this book will be to the moon. All right, let's go on now to the next book here. And the next book is also a very cool one. This is Predator number 1, up 967 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is actually the first appearance of the Predator in comic book form. Of course, this is a Dark Horse comic, Predator, that came out in the 80s. And I think one of the reasons that this particular book has gotten hot recently is because Marvel has actually recently reacquired the rights to the Predator character. So for that reason, they're actually going to be coming out and distributing a comic book line with the Predator. So, obviously with, things like television shows and movies, anytime there are those properties that come into the fold, their respective comic books and their respective first appearances of those characters are always going to get hot. But also when things happen in kind of the modern comic book sphere, like if there's a certain storyline that is going on in comic books or a certain character is about to get a new run of a title or a comic book line, what typically happens too is that those factors can also have an impact back in the market. And this right here is what we're seeing, because there isn't necessarily like a big announcement of a Predator film that is about to come out. Then this is more like the excitement that Marvel is going to be distributing the Predator comic book. Now, Matt does a great job explaining that in the article, when we did get that last rendition of the Predator movie, this book definitely saw a little bit of a jump in the market. So like speculators are going to do, whenever there's excitement about a film or television property, people are going to hop on this. But overall, this book's new sudden spike, I think in the most part is due to the push of the comic book that has been announced recently in the market. And as we dig into the numbers here, you will see there is a 9.8 FMV pushing that $1,000 range right there on the surface. You see here all on the high end. May. Lots of May sales going on overall. But overall, this is a book that when I go into eBay, I definitely see this one as a hot one. Always selling around that sort of 70, 80, maybe $100 mark, depending on what kind of grade and what kind of deal you can find for yourself. All right, let's move on now to the next book. And the next book is actually really cool. This one is Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, up 970 spots. And of course, we've talked about this book many, many times on this channel. This is the first appearance of Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau. Now, we all know that Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, or I guess we don't call her Captain Marvel yet. She is just Monica Rambeau. She made her appearance in the WandaVision show. And there's been a lot of speculation of like what that means for her character. Is she going to become Captain Marvel? Is she going to become Photon? Is she going to become Spectrum? We don't really know, but regardless, people still value this book as being that character's Grail book, that character's go-to book when it comes to wanting to own something within context to her in the MCU. So this one right here, first appearance of Monica Rambeau, Amazing Spider-Man 16. This book 100% it shot up. It blew up over the course of the WandaVision show. Just week to week, it felt like this book was always going up. I did a video where I did the value tracking of this comic book, and you saw that every week as the character became more involved in the story, this book continued to climb. And then eventually, when she got her superpowers in I think it was the second to last episode or so, that's when this book really took another big jump. Now, since the passing of the show, or since the show has been, done, this book has had its correction. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're sort of seeing it now on this hot list, because, what happens is after the hype dies down, the book kind of falls to the wayside. And then all of a sudden, once the prices of the book fall to a place that feel, people want to get their hands on it again, that's when the market, jumps back into it. And we recently got that tease for all, the new Marvel movies that are about to come. And in particular, we got one that was effectively the Captain Marvel 2 trailer, except they rebranded it to The Marvel. So I think what that trailer did is get a lot of people excited about the future of Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau. We all know that she's going to continue to make appearances in the MCU. And so for that reason, I think that this book has shot up once again. And you can see here on the census, you'll see the 9.8 FMB hovering around that $1,000 range. And then there's kind of a bigger drop off. But, typically speaking, on the bottom end, this is still a book that I see selling all the time around that $70, $80, $100, $120 range, depending on the grade and depending on the deal you can find. All right, let's move on now to the second hottest book of the week. And this one, of course, is the one that I am so excited to talk about. This is Avengers #1, up 975 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance and the origin of the team known as the Avengers. And now, I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to watch my Grail video where I actually was able to acquire this book for myself, the most expensive book I've ever bought for myself. But this was the Grail that I was going for. So I get to feel extra special that I think that my purchase is a small reason as to why this book has shown up, because, anytime there are sales going on of a book, that is fodder to add to what ends up on these hot list comic books, or hot list Go Collect lists. So I feel like I contributed to this one here, but I think one of the reasons why this book has shot up is this is one of those books that I feel like, because the market is just so hot. I mean, we're seeing all of the sales of blue chip books really exploding recently. And for that reason, I'm sure that books like, X-Men #1 or Tales of Suspense 39 or anything that is like a holy grail or a blue chip, first appearance, I feel like week to week could always end up on this type of list, but it feels like Avengers #1 has recently just gotten so hot. Maybe there was a time, say 6 months ago, where this book had kind of fallen down because after, you know, we got Endgame, the hype for Avengers sort of dies down. So this book kind of sinks a little bit, and then that allows it to like get another spike, which eventually catapulted back onto a list like this one we're seeing here. So this was one that, you know, definitely I noticed as being really hot. That's part of the reasons why I pulled the trigger when I did. And I have to imagine that, you know, at some point in the coming phases, we will get another Avengers movie. I think the Avengers brand, as it relates to Marvel, just the name, the Avengers, is so huge in pop culture that people expect that when we get sort of a crossover event film movie, people expect it to be branded as the Avengers movie. So I think for that reason, this will always be a desired book as it relates to pop culture. And that's one of the reasons why it's so hot. So as we look into the numbers here, there is a 9.6 sold on the census back in June of 2018, $340,000 FMV. Who's to say what that would be if that's sold in this market here today? And then you can see here my 2.5 FMV around the $2,700 range, but that was back in April. We're in May. Who knows what the FMV would be for this one here today? But Avengers #1, second hottest book of the week. All right, let's move on now to the hottest book of the week, and that is actually going to be Static #1, Collector's Edition, up 976 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance, of course, of Static Shock, the great DC character that recently Michael B. Jordan has been sort of attached, at least in name, as a producer to bring this character to the big screen. So we actually saw this book in a Go Collect list some weeks back. And as Matt points out in his article, I think this is one of those books that we're going to see kind of yo-yo up and down, where it's going to be people are excited about this book. They're going to want to jump on it. They're going to want to spec on it. And then it's going to fall to the wayside as we don't get any news about it in the coming months. But then as soon as we get, you know, a little blurb about it again, this book will shoot up again. And I think that that's kind of what's going on here with this, where when we got the initial news that Michael B. Jordan was going to be bringing this movie to the screen, that's when this book, you know, jumped up and made the list. And then probably after that, once the hype dies down, there's that big massive correction. Nobody wants to hunt this book anymore. It was hot that one week. And then now maybe there's been new rumors or new leaks, or maybe people are saying, hey, this book is back at a point where I can get a good deal on it. And that's kind of why we're seeing it jump up once again here in the market. And as we dig into the numbers here, you'll see 9.8 fair market value on the census, hovering around that $240 range. But this is a book that, you know, when I go onto eBay, you know, this is definitely a three-figure book. Like, it's definitely hard to find good copies for this. And, you know, people know about it. This is a big spec book that people are excited about. And for that reason, it is the hottest comic for the week of May 12th. Well, that is all I have for this video. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any of these books? Hey, I know that I actually have one of those books. You'll see it right there, Avengers #1. Definitely makes me excited that I got my copy and that I don't have to compete with other people who are going for this book right now. Because you know, if I waited just one more week, I'd be having to, you know, get I don't know, hottest comic Go Collect numbers. Who knows what those would be? Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.